I'm Nicole Crane, and today I'm going to be talking about masculine and feminine energy alchemy and how that plays out in real life. So, today I'm going to share a little spicy story about a gentleman suitor that I flew out of town to meet up with. And just for context, this guy is kind of a pretty big deal in his hometown and has a lot of charisma and a lot of sway in his scene, our scene. And it was really fascinating because when I got into town, he asked me if I wanted to go see a burlesque show. And I told him that I'm kind of picky about burlesque. Like, I don't really. Like, I have a lot of hang-ups around it. Like, if people don't take off their clothes, or if it's not traditional, or it doesn't have even like a bit of a nod to traditional burlesque, or if there's not like either a theme or a something like a twist, you know. So I want there, or a reveal is like basically the overall term that I look for when I go to a burlesque performance. But I mean, this was in a big city, so honestly, the performance was amazing, and I was very pleasantly surprised and blown away. Like, he was explaining to me that in that town it's actually illegal for the women to get fully undressed, but a couple of the girls actually did. So there was this like hint of like naughtiness and taboo that made it really juicy and kind of like speakeasy, like the cops could come in and raid at any time vibe, which was, I don't know, just added a little bit of like spice to the evening. So I was telling him at one point that when I perform and people don't make a lot of noise, especially during like the reveals, that I try to tell myself that sometimes people get so entranced by the performance that they forget to like whistle and yell and make noise, which is kind of a little more traditional in burlesque scenes. So it was really interesting because we hung around for a little bit afterwards, and met some of the performers because, I mean, he was kind of a regular there. He got a table and bottle service and everything, which at the time I thought was to impress me, but I realized later that that's just kind of his lifestyle and how he kind of treats himself to the luxury of the lifestyle that he's built. But I mean, I did feel like I was getting the royal treatment, though. I don't necessarily get that with everyone that I date, even though I really do enjoy like the decadence of all of it. So despite the fact that he kind of regularly attended that event and, you know, is kind of a high roller in that scene, we were talking to one of the girls, and he shared through my lens that he did experience that moment where he was so entranced by her performance that he didn't make noise and make a ruckus and all of that, and he also attributed it to me. So it's really interesting when men specifically do this, because on one hand there's kind of this like, oh shucks, like, oh little old me, like that was, you could have thought of that idea yourself, you know. But I do find that especially in our culture, it's not uncommon for men to steal women's ideas and either express them or present them as their own. And so I do like to acknowledge when these moments come up and men choose not to kind of co-opt and pillage, so to speak, our ideas. So it was two-sided because, I mean, it totally lit up this woman. I loved the acknowledgement that it was like my ideology that he was using to kind of express his appreciation for her. And it turned out that she invited us to this rooftop party where all the performers and artists and kind of like the circle of the, you know, the underground and the it was kind of like the after party. So it was really interesting because I just assumed that was like part of the deal, you know, like he was showing me the town and his city and the sights and all that. And we'd been on the roof for quite a while when he told me that like he's never been invited to the after party before. So I thought that it was really interesting that, I mean, I think it was a combination that I dressed the part, of course. Like I brought a huge suitcase full of fancy decadent clothes to be taken out on the town in. And so I think a little bit of it was that, you know, as a performer myself, and the fact that he alluded to that, and that was the depth of my appreciation of the performance as both a critic and a performer myself, so I could appreciate both the bravery and the presentation and the like the naughtiness and the risk taking of breaking the rules, but also just like the epic level of craftsmanship and skill that it took to like put on that caliber of a performance. And also that, I mean, we just offset each other very well. And so I think that individually we might not have gotten invited to the party, but together it took him from like a very high, like he was already at a really high level himself, but then when I met him at that level, it was actually able to like take us both to an escalated level, so, or an elevated level. So I just wanted to share that little anecdote because I think that it's kind of like the perfect example of, especially when we cultivate this within ourselves. Like sometimes a lot of people get lost in the idea that like if we're in our high feminine, we need to meet and interact and join with the divine or high masculine in somebody else. But I really profoundly this year have been experiencing that alchemy within myself, where I allow like the chaos and the richness and the expansive darkness of the entire universe within me, which is kind of like the embodiment of the feminine, with the very structured, very light, very goal-oriented, very like high focus, single focus masculine. And when I can kind of tap into like when it's time to switch into each gear or phase or embodiment, that's when really, really magical things happen. So the interesting thing is that like none of the techniques that I practice specifically cultivate that balance, because I do think that it's so specific to the individual that like it's not really something that I can like lay out a course or a program for you to like go through different steps into cultivating that. But with Exquisite, I do set the stage for a clearing to occur, and it kind of also lays the foundation of safety and self-love and openness to receiving love from other people, because instead of coming from like a hungry, needy, like black hole is like the imagery that's coming to my mind right now. So instead of this like endless void that just sucks all matter into it without reciprocation, we become a sovereign goddess. So that's really like the end goal of Exquisite, is like I believe that every woman is a goddess already. And the funny thing is like when we're born in this realm, we are so perfect and we are so creative and we're so expressive and we're so forgiving and we're so friendly and loving, right? So if we have like a healthy childhood, sometimes this like magical or mystical or idealistic condition lasts for a really long time. For other people, it's cut shorter, unfortunately, but I do believe that like at our core, that's kind of who we are as a person. And it's just due to societal norms and standards that like that kind of gets cut down and boxed in and reduced and hidden and repressed. And so the goal of Exquisite is to really just like create space for that thriving and that richness and that rebalancing to occur. So the doors close at midnight on Thursday, August 1st. So I am going to be dropping in the comments the link to book a discovery call. So far I've been like asking you to apply before we do the discovery call, but I do want as many people as possible to get in before Thursday because I'm going to be taking a break, much needed time off after I close the doors. And then once everything's kind of like in place and everything's rolling with everyone who's signing up for Exquisite right now, then I'm going to get back to promoting. But I'm actually going to take a break from promoting the one-on-one coaching, which is what this is, and I'm going to be revealing kind of a new structure as well. So I'm going to be running Exquisite one more time. It's a 3-month package, and we're going to be finishing up before December ends, or before December starts. And then these new pieces are a little bit shorter term, so keep an ear out for those. It'll probably be the second week in August that I start talking about those. So if you have any questions, please privately message me or email me at nicolecranecoach@gmail.com. And I hope that you're having a fabulous evening. Sending you lots of love. Mwah.